Welcome, everybody. My name is Marisa Abrajano, and I'm the provost of Earl Warren College and a professor in the political science department. So tonight, we have the culmination of our 50th anniversary event with our DeWitt Higgs Endowed Lecture Series. Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge some of our sponsors for this event because it wouldn't have been possible without them. Alumni Relations, many of whom we have our alumni board members here tonight, and delighted to have our alumni board president and Warren College graduate, Melody Gonzalez, class of 2002 here, so welcome. I also want to thank the UC San Diego Parents Fund, as well as the Haligiolu Data Science Institute at UC San Diego for their support of this event. And most importantly, this event wouldn't have been possible without all of our dedicated Warren staff here to help make this event happen, so I am eternally grateful for them. Like I mentioned earlier, and like the little display here shows, this is our 50th anniversary. Warren was founded in 1974 as Fourth College. And we are fortunate to have this endowed lecture series, which was founded by DeWitt Higgs in 1974, who also happens to have founded the law firm here in San Diego, Higgs, Fletcher, and Mack in 1939. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to some distinguished campus leaders who have joined us for tonight's event. So first off, I would like to welcome Chancellor Khosla to provide some opening and brief remarks. Chancellor.
Thank you, Provost Abrajano. Please give her a big hand. She's doing an amazing job. And the most important thing she said was opening and brief. I think she wanted to make sure I was going to be brief. And in trying to be brief and convincing you that I'm going to be brief, I'm going to be long. No, I'm not. Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome. She already said, I'm Pradeep Khosla, I'm the Chancellor of UC San Diego, and it's so good to see so many of you out here, not just the students, but also members of the faculty and community, but most importantly, alumni. I've said that a great university is always owned by their alumni, and the more I go out there now, across the world and across all the cities in the US, I cannot tell you how much momentum there is for UC San Diego and the alumni coming to our alumni events, and all because for the first time we were eligible to go to March Madness. Both our men's and women's team went to March Madness. Isn't that amazing? Okay, right? So we will never be a completely sports school, but we will be a school where sports brings us together, and especially basketball, right? This is a great day for UC San Diego. It's a great day for Earl Warren College. This is, as Marisa said, our 50th anniversary, and we are only 65 years old. So within the 65-year envelope, we have 8 colleges and many, many departments, and you can see that every year we celebrate somebody's milestone anniversary or the other, because we are a relatively young place. And Earl Warren College was, as she said, was the 4th college, and we now are up to 8 colleges. The 6, 7, 8 are not named, they're only numbered. But remember, number is a name depending on how it is spelled. So this college out here was named for Earl Warren, who's the former governor of California and also the Supreme Court Justice. And the motto is towards a life in balance. And this is exactly what DJ Patil, who's here to talk about his life, is going to talk about his life. And in looking at somebody who triple majored in 2.5 years, you might wonder where the balance is. But I'm told the dean is going to negate me and argue that the balance is in the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. And I think that's an equally valid argument, right? So there are multiple ways to look at balance. So let me just say a little bit about DJ, who finished his undergrad in 1996 with a degree in mathematics. It doesn't tell me he had other 2 minors. One was drama, theater, and dance, right? What was the other one? Psychology, okay. And he's here to celebrate a significant milestone for this school, for this college. He has an amazing career in industry and in government and in academia. And he is credited, and I don't know if this is worthy of a PhD, with coining the term data scientist, which is actually a significant term today, right? Our whole data science school. I mean, there's a lot of places now that are graduating data scientists. And he was appointed by President Obama to be the first U.S. chief data scientist, not the chief scientist, but chief data scientist. And he led efforts that led to the creation of nearly 40 data science chief data officer roles in the U.S. government. And he's the author of multiple publications, including the popular book, Ethics and Data Science, which amazingly has become a really, really important area today. And in 2017, he received the UC San Diego Illustrious Alumni Award. And in his current role as general partner at GRET, right? GRET, Great Point Ventures, he continues to exemplify the balance that focuses on building companies across a variety of industries, which span healthcare, enterprise technologies, and national security. So I cannot tell you how excited I am. But I'm excited because he's a UC San Diego alum. But I'm also equally excited that he is the son of my good friend. So I know his father pretty well, who was, in case you did not know, one of the original entrepreneurs of Indian origin in this country. So he came here a long time ago, one of the first immigrants, and he's a very well-known entrepreneur. So please welcome DJ Patil, but he's not coming right after me. Between me and him, you're going to be holding your breath because we're going to be talking. Rajesh Gupta and Dean Moore is going to be talking. Okay, Rajesh, you're on.
Thank you, Chancellor Khosla. You can breathe. I'm Rajesh Gupta, Director of Halijulu Data Science Institute and proud co-sponsor for this event. I'm also a Warren College faculty, so it's doubly an honor for me to be here. SDSI is a new academic unit on this campus, now 6th year. And in those 6 years, it has gone from an idea to over 50 faculty, 1,400 students, 4-degree programs, bachelor's, master's, PhD, multiple master's programs, and a very rich industrial liaison program. DJ Patil has been part of our advisory board and occasionally guiding us, calling me and saying, Rajesh, you've got to pay attention to this part. For example, reaching out to the community colleges, making sure that we are present in the governor's office for now building a pipeline to our programs. And now, DJ, you'll be happy to know the San Diego Supercomputer Center, which started the NRP, which is now the platform that is being used by the CNIC to reach out to community colleges and San Diego State Universities for AI training. And that San Diego Supercomputer Center and SDSI are now going to get together and be a part of a new school of computing information data science, for which I serve as an interim dean. So it is really convergence of so many ideas and thoughts that so nice to see you and so nice to see everyone here for this event. So welcome. And before DJ speaks, now you can hold your breath again. Here is my friend, a very nice guy, John Moores.
Yeah, that's Moore singular. The other one is the owner of the San Diego Padres. Oh. And I recently had a meeting with our athletic director, and he came into my office and he said, "Are we meeting? I thought I was meeting." And he was serious. He thought the meeting had been arranged with John Moores. So we had a nice chat anyway.
Who's also a billionaire, by the way?
Also? Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being here. We're really pleased to be here celebrating not only Warren's 50th anniversary, but the 60th anniversary of the UC San Diego colleges. And so I've been asked to talk a little bit about the colleges, but first of all, I'd like to thank very much all the people who are engaged in this. Thank you, Chancellor Khosla, Interim Dean Gupta, Provost Abrahano, Director Gagnon, and President Gonzalez. And then especially thank you to our distinguished alum and our guest speaker, DJ Patil. So UC San Diego was the first of the UCs to adopt a college system, starting with First College in 1964, so exactly 60 years ago. The University of California Regents then named it Revelle College, named after the founder of the university, Roger Revelle, about a year later. Now, it's been my pleasure and my honor to be part of UC San Diego now for over 33 years. First as professor of linguistics, I've also served as provost of Muir College and now dean of undergraduate education. But I already knew about the college system when I came here because I am an alum of UC Santa Cruz, and UC Santa Cruz is the other UC campus that has a similar, but not exactly the same type of college system. So I experienced the system where it has the benefit that it provides our undergraduate students a sense of community within a larger university, purpose-driven curricula, and a pride within this larger university. So the college motto, 8 colleges, 1 great university, isn't just a concept, but it really is a reality here at UC San Diego. Now, there's a brief history of UCSD at the Geisel Library Archives that talks about the founding of the college system, and it says, the primary purpose of establishing the colleges within the campus framework is to help students maintain his individuality within such a large student body and to provide a variety of educational atmospheres and philosophies. And it probably wasn't that large a student body in 1968, and we would no longer use the generic he in that sentence. But it went on to say, the difference between one college and another is not one of specialization in subject matter, but one of educational technique. So the founding was pretty much exactly what has happened with the colleges. However, what has not happened was the original plan of 12 colleges, each of 2,500 students. Nevertheless, they still fulfilled the original purpose of a smaller community within this large R1 university. Now, UC San Diego's colleges came over 4 periods. For the first 4 came within the first 10 years. So those include Revelle, Muir, Thurgood Marshall, and Earl Warren. And then this was followed after 12 years with Eleanor Roosevelt College in 1988. Then there was another pause when Six College was founded in 2002. And then most recently, there were 2 additional colleges that happened very, very recently, one in 7th College in 2020 and 8th College in 2023. Now, each college is more than just a cluster, residential cluster. The colleges are founded around an intellectual theme that's supported by its general education curriculum. So, for example, Earl Warren's theme of a life in balance informs its general education curriculum that includes a requirement on ethics and society, and then balances, and this is, I think, what Chancellor Koso was getting at, it balances the major requirements with non-contiguous programs of concentration. And this is, again, a way of balancing liberal arts education. The colleges also merge aspects of academics with student affairs to create a holistic approach to a student-centered approach. Our chancellor has invested in our 2 most recent colleges to improve the student experience. So because of significant enrollment growth over the past decades, our colleges struggled to serve the students with their increased numbers. They grew to over double the 2,500 that was originally envisioned. And with the new 2 colleges, we should be able to see some decompression, allowing the colleges to focus on the student experience. In addition, several major building projects have and will provide world-class student housing, both for lower division students and upper division students, making UC San Diego a world leader in student-centeredness. So again, thank you so much for coming out this afternoon, and welcome to our DeWitt Higgs Memorial Lecture. Thank you. And now I'm turning it back to Provost Abraham.
Thank you. Is everybody?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
All right, so we're finally beginning. So this is DJ. And then I think as you see in the slides, this is Dr. Jeff Gagnon. Many of you probably had class with him. He's the director of Warren College Writing Program. So I will just
That's it? There's got to be more applause for that.
I know. So we will just shoot some questions to DJ right now for about 20 minutes or so, and then we will open it up to all of you, because I know many of you have questions that you'd love to ask DJ. So we want to have as much of an opportunity as that as possible.
This is Ask Me Anything.
Right now,
This
yes.
is like the hot seat, which is great. You guys get to ask whatever you want.
All right, Jeff, did you want to take it away?
Sure. Okay, so DJ, as you reflect on your undergraduate experience at UC San Diego, can you talk about how your education shaped your interests in math and or your concern for ethics and data science? Like, was there a class, a research project, a lab experience, or something that just kind of started to spark that curiosity?
Yeah, I mean, if I think back around the formative experiences I had, I mean, it's every day in your undergrad has some formative experience. That's part of the beauty of it. It's also interesting to reflect on, you know, this college being 50 years old. I was born the year the college was started. I just turned 50. So this is like, there's a lot coming at me on this. But you know, like when I think about this, is the number of moments that took place that you could say altered my destiny were fundamental. Like one thing that happened is when I first came to UCSD, I transferred in from a community college. I got here, there was no room physically at Warren, so I got put over in Eleanor Roosevelt College, then Fifth, with many of my former roommates who are here actually. And they, you know, the people that are around you transform who you are. Yeah. Like the people that you sort of like, how did I end up with this group of people in a class, in a dorm or somewhere? They fundamentally make you who you are going to be. They are the ones that shape your trajectory. And they're the ones outside of the core curriculum that help you figure out and test what your ideas and framework. The other two that you know, when I showed up here, I started off as a computer science poli-sci double major. So props to my poli-sci people, except I never got to take a poli-sci class because there was so much going on. There was so much other stuff that I just couldn't fit everything in. And one of the great things that happened especially at Warren is you were kind of slammed into, you got to pick these programs of concentration. And so I was thinking, like, what are the things that are the furthest from what I will be doing? And so starting with computer science, I was like, okay, that's technical. What could I take that is furthest from it? And so there was this great set of psych classes, there was theater classes, and so I just sort of walked into those. On the Warren side, that and part of the thing that is particularly, I thought was so special about Warren was the ethics class. And, you know, I had never really been exposed to ethics. I got put in this ethics class. And I think it kind of oftentimes feels like, this is a class you just got to take. But it was like it changed my thinking. I didn't know that there were names for these kind of ethical questions. It was like the trolley question. And this actually came up many years later, you know, when I was building LinkedIn. Reid Hoffman, who's a founder, he's a philosopher. He would have done his PhD in philosophy and gone into academia without not having the idea to start LinkedIn. But then when we're debating a lot of complex questions in the building of the company, you need a common language to talk about hard problems. Mm-hmm. And so here's a person who's operating at a PhD level, thinking about these things, and I was able to keep up because I had taken this class. And that may seem trivial and silly, but because I had that, I was like, oh, I know what you're talking about. You're looking for frameworks. I can keep up with this and execute across those things, and then we can take action. And we didn't have time. You're tired. You're struggling with it. So having that language and knowing all these sort of weird things that you learn in this potpourri of classes, that is the richness that you get from a place like not only UCSD, but the people that you're around at Warren College and the curriculum that's designed to support it.
Thank you.
That's great. So we have a lot of Warren students sitting right here. So I'm seeing a lot of nodding, all of you.
You guys are lucky.
So on that topic, what is something you wish Warren, or actually all of our UC San Diego undergrads, learned about ethics and data? and just more generally, their time here in college before they graduate, especially given where we are in this moment, right?
Yeah. I wish that you all would realize that the questions that are being asked in class that seem theoretical are real questions that you at some point are going to be leaders and dealing with. And I'll, I got to be with a few in class today and sort of talk through this. And, like you look at these questions like about data and ethics, or, you say, what's our responsibility with this data set? How would we build it? What's the role of bias in these systems? What's the role, could these systems be racist? All these questions. And the thing that struck me as I was seeing these questions being written down is I've been asked all these questions in the Oval Office. Every single one of these. I've been asked this question in building every company. I ask these questions when I'm evaluating companies and trying to think through ideas. So these aren't theoretical things in the way that they seem when you see them in a book, you see them in a classroom. They're something you're going to be confronted with. And let's just get very real and pragmatic right now, because there's a big question going on in the country about diversity, inclusion, equity, and inclusion. And then if you look at this and you look at these conversations right now and you ask, how are you going to take on the problems? The thing I learned here, and I got to work with people like Melody and others at the White House on this, is what I learned the most is if you don't have a team around you that looks like the country, that looks like the population that you are taking on to serve or to figure out how to do this, you can't actually solve the problem. So you can call it whatever you want. You can use whatever label you want. But I would argue what you learn and what you put together in these classes, the theoretical frameworks, and then take it into application is going to be both that as well as the team that you can put together to go solve that problem.
I think we need a round of applause for that.
Okay, so as the writing professor, I want to ask a question about your writing. In 2018, as the chancellor mentioned, you co-published a book called Ethics in Data Science with your close colleagues. What problems or tensions were you observing in the field that led you not just to want to do something, but to actually write about it and share that with other people?
Yeah, let me first start with the thing that I wish I took more seriously here is learning how to write. I wish I took it more seriously. Why do I wish I took it more seriously? I took most of my writing actually at the community college level, and I was very fortunate. I had a great set of instructors who kicked my butt to no end, and they taught me critical thinking. And writing is critical thinking. It's about articulating your thoughts. And I really took me I kid you not, after I graduated, it took me another 3-4 years before I finally was like, oh, that's what they were talking about. Oh, I wish I paid attention to that. I wish I got better. It took me another, 10 years before I figured out what is my voice as a writer and how do I write? Like, what does it mean to communicate? What's the purpose of writing? That's a lot of wasted time when I think about wow, if I had learned how to do that. And what I really wish I had been able to do, it's how do you write fast? How do you write with clarity? How do you use this to test out ideas? Writing isn't just about trying to get something published. And so what happened with this data science and ethics, well, the very first thing that I ever really published I wasn't trying to be a writer. That wasn't my goal. What I was watching was everyone was talking about this thing around using data. You have Bradley Wojtek, who is doing this, building this in companies and trying to build this out. We were all hanging out trying to talk about this thing, but no one was really codifying it and writing it down. And so I said, well, what if I try to write it down? And I was super slow and trying to do this. And I wasn't and my friend Reed was writing the book, his first book, and he was doing all this stuff. And I was like, I'm going to do exactly the opposite of everything he does. I don't care if it's a bestseller. I'm going to make it free. We're going to make it super short. I'm going to make it be able to read it within the time where you can't have electronics on the plane, from sitting down to take off. I want it to be read in that time. And I want to be just could be passed around very quickly. And that requires you to be a very concise writer. In that process, when we were writing or thinking about the data ethics stuff, academia was all abuzz about what does it mean to have ethics in data and the beginnings of that, the new form of machine learning, AI, starting to move that. And we said, I don't know how to do any of this stuff. All this talk that everyone was saying we should do just didn't make sense. And so as everyone was getting really angry and frustrated, so I got some friends together, because I also try never to write alone. I never work on anything alone. I always work as a team, anything I do, because that's how I create safeguards for making sure I'm not just drinking my own Kool-Aid, all those things. And so we started to write down our ideas of saying, like, what would you tell your team if you were building it and want to be on the right side of this? What are the ideas that you put? And then we shared them and we tried to codify them into a recipe set saying, we don't know how to do ethics in data, but we can give some frameworks that put us on the right trajectory to get there. And that this book, we hope, will be the basis that other people will write way smarter things than us. And that was the premise. And what's been interesting about it is what has taken off and the parts that have been implemented. And what that tells you, and what I hope people take away, is it's not about who I am. It's about the ideas I can put in somebody else's hand and allow them to take that idea and carry it forward.
Thank you. Can I go with another one?
Yes, please.
Okay. To switch gears. What's a leadership lesson that you learned while serving as chief data scientist in the White House? What is a leadership idea that you wish more people in the tech industry understood better? Are there like certain principles that you follow or that you would like other people to follow?
Yeah, the best one I would say, it was probably there's certain lessons you don't want to learn certain ways. They're like you learn certain lessons by getting yelled at by your parents. That's the way you'll learn a lesson. Up there is getting yelled at by the president. and President Obama was very adamant when we were trying to build the largest data set humanity had ever created around genomic information, patient record data, environmental data, with the idea of finding new cures, new treatments, new ideas. And one of the things he said, you have to build this with the people who are going to be impacted at the table. He said, and so we were doing a check-in meeting, and we're kind of going around, and he's like, okay, well, tell me about the people that are involved. And it's like, well, sir, here's this group that represents this population, this group that represents this population. And then he stops at me and he says, I thought I was clear. And you're like, oh, this is not going to go well. You're just like, whatever comes next. And everyone else is in that moment where, everyone else is looking very stoic. No one's making a face because they just know it's going to be bad. And I was like, well, sir, is this? He says, no, I thought I was clear. You have to have the people who is going to impact. They have to be there with you. And so as a result of that, Francis Collins, who led the Human Genome Project, myself, we go out to Philadelphia, and we've brought a whole bunch of people together to talk about this project, and we're going around the table talking to the different people, and they're giving us their ideas, where we're doing good, where we're doing bad, and there's this elderly black woman who's sitting in the back corner, and she's just being quiet, and we've gone around for like an hour and a half, and I'm like, ma'am, we haven't heard from you. Is there anything we should know? And she just looks at me and she says, do you really want to hear what I have to say? And I was like, oh man, here comes another ass kicking. We're like, yes, ma'am. And she's like, have you thought about this? And she just goes on. And she's just like 10 minutes of like, whoa. And she's just ripping into us. And I remember Francis and I are walking out of the meeting. He's like, whoa, that was a lot. And I go, holy cow. Can we hire her? Because she knows all the problems. She understands this. We're not from this community. We're never going to appreciate this. We're never going to be able to get this right. We need her to be on the team to direct us, to tell us what to do. And so what I've seen, even, and I saw this at LinkedIn, I've seen this building every company, even most recently, building Devoted Health, where we take care of senior citizens. Everyone has a theoretical idea. Building healthcare companies, everyone's like, hey, let's give them an Apple Watch. Let's give them cellular signal. Let's do this. Like, go into the neighborhood, go into the clinic, be in their living room. Because you know what you do if you're a senior citizen around this country and you're in their living room? The first thing you're going to learn is Wi-Fi is not the thing. Wi-Fi is not a thing. Bluetooth is fragile. You know what's going to change the trajectory of a senior citizen's life in this country? Air conditioning, access to food, an exterminator. So we have lots of great ideas. Those are good. Those are like interesting ideas. What do we solve first? And then you're not going to figure that out by just looking at a bunch of data. You're going to figure this out by meeting those data points. Go out, find those data points, talk to them, understand their story, see what their lives are. I say, like, the data points have names. Learn their names, tell their stories. And if you can't tell somebody the story behind those data points, you really haven't done your job as a data scientist or a builder of a technology or a platform.
Yes. That last point resonates with me so much, DJ. As a social scientist, it's, at the end of the day, we study people, right? And it doesn't matter. You have to be culturally competent. You have to know the data, because if you can't interpret it properly, then the data doesn't matter, right? And I think that's part of, on our end, it's sort of, you learn it over the years, but it's always the really important thing that we're trying to guide and mentor our students to. And I think...
Well, let me be a little harsher.
Yeah.
Because I think what I think you're saying, you're being kind. I think what you're saying is, let me be your anger translator. That it's like, duh, Captain Obvious. Like, you're supposed to meet and this is the point of why these, like, you have to take classes in other areas.
Right.
Because had I taken enough poli-sci or other things, this would have been obvious. I would have understand, like, if you're running a campaign,
right,
you go meet constituents, you talk to them, you do focus groups and all these things. That was obvious. And I didn't know how to do that because I hadn't been exposed enough. Despite all the things I'd taken, I had missed this. I had a blind spot. And so that's one more reason why you have to be exposed to so many things to take on these complex problems these days.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that our students here are so fortunate of is that, they have world-class experts on this campus that they can take to address all these different questions that are increasingly very difficult. And I mean, I know at Warren College, we have a very large student body who are STEM students, but that doesn't mean that there's less value in doing qualitative work, because at the end of the day, we can't solve these difficult problems just from a one-sided approach to everything. So I'm going to ask one more question before we open up.
Sorry, if there's one thing I can advise you to do if you're a STEM student to harden yourself against anything that's coming with AI that might disrupt your field, it would be to get involved in the social sciences. There's certain things that are not replaceable, and it's the things that you're going to learn on the social sciences side. It's a human emotional connection. It's understanding people. Those things are what are going to AI-proof your job. Doesn't mean just necessarily switch majors, but you have to be an and it can't be like a lightweight and. It's got to be a strong and these days, given what's coming with AI and what we expect to see as the impact.
So actually, that was going to be my last question, because we had a ton of questions from those of you in the audience asking about your thoughts.
I tokenized this whole interview.
About the future of AI, right? And so before we...
I've got more on that.
Yeah, please. So
Okay.
Whatever your thoughts are.
Yeah. So because the number one thing that I've been going around the country, visiting universities, talking to students, seeing everything, and there's a set of trend lines, right, that we start to see. And I talked a little bit this day. Those that are in college right now, you're the first that are going to be truly AI fluent. Not AI fluent. You're going to be AI native. You are going to be AI native people. The rest of us, at best, we're going to be AI fluent. you guys are better at using a mobile device than I will ever be, despite having the fortune of actually designing a lot of the technology that you are using. You guys are better at it. You've grown up with it. It is part of the way you think and operate. So as AI native people, you're going to be able to use this tool set very effectively. For those of us that are AI fluent, the best way to figure this out is we have to immersion. Just like language, it's immersion. You got to jump in, get in it, just like live it and feel it and try it and all those things. So if you're AI native, what should you be doing? You got this amazing tool. You got to build your muscle to learn how to really be curious. What is curiosity? You have to assume that whatever job you take, whatever you do, is going to be replaced 5 times over in your lifetime. You're going to change at least careers 5 times. Like that's the expectation that you should see. We've already seen it, and we can see this in the LinkedIn data, other type things. Like you can see the number of type of fundamental transitions that people make in their careers these days, and it's increasing. So you're on a trajectory of roughly 5 at the pace of technology is what we think is going to happen. So how do you do that? Curiosity. Second one is how do you learn fast? And that means that you have both a combination of depth of first principles, like you can go very, very deep and you have a lot of first principles, and then you can go across a lot of areas where you're able to draw on lots of things. I can assure you, if you talk to my roommates or any other people that was here with college if they said like I was going to go to the White House, I'm pretty sure that's the last thing that any of us would have ever said, including myself. And if you said like I was going to go work on all these various different problems, I would have never expected that. And most of the problems I work on, I'm not the world's expert. When I got handed a bunch of these problems, I didn't know how to do this. What I do, though, is I find really good people who are willing to teach me. When I got to Silicon Valley and was dropped into like these big companies, I didn't know what a database was. I really generally didn't know what a database was. And I told the team, I was like, I don't really know what this is. And they were like, oh, it's not that bad. Let me just, I'll get this. It'll take us 2 hours. And they taught it to me. But they were willing to teach it to me because I was around that great people. And so the next portion of this is surround yourself with amazing people who are going to not just look after your long-term interests, but look out and nurture the best version of you. It's like food. If you have awesome people around you, high quality food, you're going to do better. Find those people around you. And if you have the people who aren't that, move along and find them. There's so many great people, so much great talent here. They will propel you forward in life and carry you forward. Those are the things. They may not seem like AI things, but these are all the things of AI. That this is what hardens you against that, against changing a domain of technology.
Thank you, DJ. Okay, and with that, we will open it up to question and answer. So we have Dana and Ishika here who will pass along the mic. So feel free to raise your hand.
You can ask me anything. No one's asking me about tariffs yet. Wow. Awkward laughter.
Hi, I'm Mark Gonzalez. Thanks so much for being here. My question is about presenting your ideas to figure out which data to collect and how to decide like what to collect and how to present it.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Also a public servant who's given a lot of time to in the name of making this country a better place. So one of the things that I think is really interesting is this question of how do we actually understand? Like, we could talk to some people. That's not scalable. You've heard lots of questions, about the polls and like, are polls right? Polls wrong? What are they telling us? What's going on right now? This is a great opportunity. I think that there's a whole new thing coming, whatever we're going to call it. Whatever sense making is of the world through data, through interviews, to figure this out. There's a whole entire space to be creative. Back when I was here, there was this whole thing of quantitative economic decision sciences, KEDS. There was other versions of these things, but there's something new here that's emerging, and I think it's a great one. Somebody's going to coin what it's called, these people are, what they do, everything, but it's not yet a thing. And so this is like one of the great unheralded, like there's something something remarkable that can be created to actually figure out where are people's thoughts, minds at, what do we actually understand? And I'll try to be a little more specific because I sound maybe just like to a level. When we were first figuring out a bunch of the things around vaccine rollout strategy, heading into the Biden administration, there was a thesis of, hey, decisions are going to be made around the table. Decisions are going to be made by the family at that table. And that was a thesis that everyone had held on to because that's the way the world has operated. Turns out that's not where it's done between a person and their phone and the online community they're with. Why didn't we see that? Is it because we were too tired? Because we didn't know how to think about it? Is it that we didn't have the right focus groups? Is it what led to missing this? And how could we have figured this out better? Those things, I think, are some of the questions there. Do we think about, there's fundamental questions I don't think that we even know how to ask the question of or for. We're learning, there's so much to learn from our different populations, from each other, that I don't think we've even begun to scratch the surface on these things. And then there's a big question of how do we put these data sets together in a responsible way to actually ask these? How do we ensure those data sets don't get weaponized or turned around and used on people? All of this are tough, complex problems, but these are the problems of not just today, but of the next decade that I think are some of the most exciting ones to work on.
So as AI continues to improve, what do you think will be the biggest challenges in regulation, in the government of AI?
Doing anything, very honestly. So there's a couple, but all seriousness, there's a few challenges. So fundamentally, the problem of right this minute, you've got 17 laws that assigned 17 laws on the books for California. Who's enforcing them? Great. That means they're just paper, but nobody's actually enforcing them. What is the enforcement mechanism? How do you actually determine what harms are? All of those type of things. Many of these laws also are ill-posed. There's a bill right now to talk about if someone does any suicidal ideation on a large language model, you should report that. Well, that seems like a reasonable thing. And then you're like, what does it mean if you were building the system and you're like, I'm responsible. Do you want me to listen into everyone's conversation? Well, that seems like a violation of trust. But also, how do I decide you're actually ideating? I'm making a judgment now. So now we're getting into what does that regulation really look like? What does it mean? How do we do that? The federal side, we've been paralyzed for a long time. I think everyone is focused on AI. I would actually still argue focus on data, because we have the amount of data that can be acquired about you, made to assess about you, all of that. The data brokerage industry is significant, and yet nothing has been done. The FTC wrote a report about this, what Congress needs to act on. It has not been acted on. And so there's a lot of questions that I think are fair to ask about what should we be doing with this data? Who could be doing that? And then AI acts as this massive accelerant of what could be done. And so all of that, and I think you're seeing versions of this where people are using it to take and process an incredible amount of information, and they're doing it in a lazy way. And so they just say, find me all the people we should fire. And that AI is not really well designed for that. And that's also not something we should ever be using for that. Now, is that regulation? I think that's a question these are questions that we should ask fundamentally you should ask them is why didn't they take a Warren class and how did they come to they passed? But that's the way I think about these things. So what does it mean to actually move on proper legislation? The other way I think the honest take right now, the way I think about this is, given the stance of the current administration, EU trying to be a regulator but being left out of the race, China going all in, I would describe this as everyone is going to be all gas, no brakes for a significant period of time. the thing that may change that is we may see somebody who gets significantly harmed or some major harm that has happened. And by the way, there's versions of that have already happened. People, unfortunately, the young male who was killed himself with the interactions through character AI. To other areas, we expect more of those kind of situations. We also know that the systems can do really powerful help. They're helping people. So where's society come out on this? I think is a real one. But I think what you're also seeing right now is the impact of AI is playing out right now by certain people using the systems, but they're just not, people just don't realize the way they are using those systems. Good question. I think we got one up there.
What do you think is a public policy issue that's not being talked about enough these days?
Wow.
Good question.
Well, one that comes to mind that's just starting to get attention, maybe, and is actually something that I've been fortunate enough to be educated on from others is menopause, and that our healthcare system doesn't really know how to treat 50% of the population as they go through perimenopause and menopause. And so what does that look like? How do we construct our amazing system of taking care of people every way, all the way from research and development of drugs, all the way through clinical treatments, other type things around this issue. I'll give you another one that comes to mind, that I have been working on for a substantial period of time is organ donation. Our organ donation system in this country is a travesty. You know, you think of this moment of like the Hollywood version of here comes the helicopter and everyone's like streamlined motion and everything is organized. You know how organs travel in this country? Southwest. Do you put your luggage on Southwest or you try to do a carry-on?
She means like the airline?
Yeah. We actually have an organ that was there in a box and there's a tire track over it. So imagine the situation. You or a loved one is about to receive a heart. Your number has finally come up. Amazing moment. Gift of life. And so you're waiting, still waiting, checking like on Google, where's the flight? Finally, the organ shows up and it's 10 minutes past the expiration date of the organ. Can't use it. Gift of life to now get back in line. You know, the thing that always blows my mind about this fundamentally, the United States of America, we decoded the human genome, figured out how to split the atom, we invented the telephone. We are the only system, the only country to be able to send a probe to every major celestial object in our solar system. We put up the James Webb Telescope, the Hubble. We've discovered so many amazing things. And you can't get a heart to a person that is waiting and already organized in time? That's embarrassing. We are better than that. And so the question is, what should we be doing about it? And it turns out there's a lot of things that I would call tired excuses, tired talking points about why we can't do it. But you know what I tell people is like, go sit down next to that person and talk to the person when they have been denied that heart. Then decide what you're going to do and work on. And like you all have to choose what problem you're going to work on, what choices of things you get to work on, and how you spend your time, what you're going to go after. And I would offer, work on the things that when you get to sit with other people that you are proud of. and other people are like, you did that? Wow, that's crazy. And like, by the way, like when I was here, I had this wacky idea. I was like, maybe I'm going to graduate early. I'm going to just say, I'm going to get on a research vessel from Scripps Institute of Oceanography and go around Antarctica. People are like, that is crazy. And I was like, I don't know. I just saw a flyer for it. So it seems interesting. I ended up in the Department of Defense in that way. I was like, people are like, this is a crazy thing. They're like, you're going to go do what? And then I got sent off to Central Asia to sort of secure bioweapons facilities. I had no right to do that. I'm a mathematician. Like, what's the right to do? I figured it out. You have these experiences. You're going to get and pull all this stuff and pull your friends in. And then you're living a life of impact. You're living a life. I mean, I kid you not. I know this sounds trite, but this is the life that Earl Warren would want all of us to live. This is what you are trained for. This is what you are built for. This is what we have the opportunity to achieve, not just as individuals, but together. And what I also mean, like, you guys can ask me anything. Like, you can ask me anything. Like, I have the mic. They don't know what I'm going to say.
Thank you for your amazing talk. And my question is, could you give an example where you need to deal with an ethical question in a specific real world circumstance?
Yeah, great question. What's a real one? So I'll give it one in LinkedIn, because at this point, there was a point where I'd say, hey, how many people are on LinkedIn? People are like, what's that? Does it have all the vowels? No one got that internet joke. Bradley got that joke. So LinkedIn they're like, hey, you guys have this amazing database. These hedge funds, other people were like, will you sell us the database? We'd like the database. Just give us all the information. And they were like, how much are we talking about? And it was a lot of money. And the company needed money. We had to pay people. We had to make it all work out. And so the question is, should we sell the database? Should we do this? And we thought long and hard about it. We had these ethical debates about what's right. And we said, there's one rule above all else. Do what's right by the user. Because if you're the user at the end of the day is the one that's contributing their data. So if we don't do what's right by them, we're not going to do it. So what we said is, we realized is, companies want this data, people want their data. So we said is, you want this data? Great. You know what we're going to do? We're going to build products that give you insight to this data, and we're going to give it first to the individual. And so some of the stuff that we did was we said, here's your company page. And we said, where are they before they arrive at this company? And then we also said, you know what? That's one side of the question that we got to sort through. But we also then got to add this other thing, which says we should tell people where they go after this company. And the companies were pissed when we did that. They were super angry. And we were like, well, look, the hedge funds want this data. You want this data. But whose data is it? It's their data. So we give that to them first. If you want the search functionality for this and you want to find people, we will allow you to do that through the enterprise product, and you have to pay a lot for that, but that is within the guardrails of it. So we took the problem that was sort of seemed like an ethical conundrum of, should we sell this data, yes or no? And we said, well, we see that, but we are going to turn that into a much richer, deeper product question of how do we turn this into something of utility for the people that should get the value of it the most, while also providing value into all these other groups. Does that help? Okay.
Thank you for the insights. I'm curious if you've experienced anything that made you so user-centric when it comes to thinking about all of the problems that you've discussed so far, not just in political issues, but also products and stuff.
Yeah, honestly, it's a cumulative aspect, and a lot of it was I got taught by other people who were around me, people who were better than me, people who were political scientists. Honestly, a lot of journalists taught me a lot. Like, I didn't know actually how to interview people, how to really get the true story out of them. And they taught me, and I got to see them do it. And I thought, oh, well, maybe I should try to do it. And I sucked at it. I was terrible at it. And then I had to learn. And it's still awkward. Like, like when I go into a region or I'm trying to build something or figure something out, and I'm just like, okay, here comes this awkward feeling. It feels deeply, I'm like, I got to go talk to this person. How terrible. And I hate it. And then after I do it, I'm like, that was the most invigorating thing ever. I learned so much. I just spent a couple weeks in Florida visiting clinicians' homes because there's a lot of talk about doctors, nurses, care teams who are burnt out. And I was like, well, would you guys be nice enough to let me visit and hear what's wrong? And, they just told me. Like, there was a thing that I used to do when I was in the White House, which was, as I got to go around the country, do different things, I would go to get my hair cut somewhere, and I would just talk to people, or I might just meet somebody, and I would be like, what do you want the president to know tomorrow morning? Like, what do you want the president to know? Because I may not be able to tell the president, but I'm going to tell the president's staff. Whatever you tell me is going up. What do you want to know? And I realized that's a real incredible thing of privilege. Why do I need that excuse of the president? Why shouldn't I just ask that question? What do you wish the president would know? What is it about that? People just tell you stuff that you should know, and all these things. Everything else is then a tool of how do you get the right information? How do you get the right signal? Part of what you don't also realize for the students that were in the class, what I'm learning just as much from you all, of what's on your mind, how you are thinking, what's going on. That's the point of it. Talking to faculty, all of that comes together to formulate the thesis of where are we right now as not only country, but what do other people need. And hopefully the role I get to play is disseminate that and channel it into the right productive conversations, or play a connector and say, oh, these people should talk, and hopefully something good will come out of it.
Thank you.
So we have time for one last question, and then, of course, we have the reception following.
Right.
Where
How about this? Because I said, how about we get a question here? There was a question up here somewhere. Oh, okay. Question there, question here. And we're just going to ask the questions, and then I'll formulate all into one big thing.
Wrap it all.
Yeah.
So question after question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you go first, then we'll go there, and then here.
All right. So having worked and served in government, I'm curious where you think we, the people, can have influence we may not appreciate. We can vote, call our elected officials, rally, anything else that we should be thinking about.
Yeah. What do we do to turn it into action? Awesome. Okay? Yeah, we'll get all of it.
Yeah, so twice you alluded to weaponization of data science. Could you expand on that, please?
Sure. Great. Weaponization of data. Okay?
Hi. Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry, just to jump in. I want to ask you about your experience at the White House. I know there's so many different issues that everyone is facing, and I know a lot of your work focused on health and policing. How do you choose which issues to prioritize and who to help the most?
How do we choose? Okay, great.
Hi. After adding on to what everyone said, you personally and you in the industry in general, what can be done for more inclusivity? Because as you know, data science in the world of STEM in general is still like a guys' club of old dead white guys. And what can we do to get more people of color, more women, more non-men, more queer people, and whatnot to make things more bright and colorful?
Great inclusivity. Okay. Yeah, Gavin.
Hi. I just want to know. It sounds like you've done a million different.
Yeah, I get
things.
fired a lot.
And I just want to know, why? Why did you? I guess we'll start. Why did you go to college? Why did you go to the first job? Why? What was your why? Why did you keep doing what you did?
Yeah. What's my why? That's actually probably the underlying thing is. To have fun, to have an experience, to be stressed out, to be with people who are on a mission together, trying to do something unique where it's exhausting and it's painful, but it's so invigorating at the end. It is fundamentally about being able, if I had to say one thing to you, that you would be really well served by, figure out what your mission is. Every agency, every department, companies, they all have missions. LinkedIn's mission is connect the world's professionals, make them more successful and productive. DeWitt's Health is to build a healthcare system that takes care of everyone like their own loved ones. Google has theirs, of organization, of data information. Everybody has one. What's yours? I was very fortunate enough to figure out that mine was to make the world a better place for our kids and our kids' kids. I didn't figure that out until my late 20s. And I didn't have kids, but I realized, oh, that's what my mission is. Does that mean like you can't make money or you can't do other things? No, you can do all of those. It's a question of how do you prioritize your time and how do you align those things? People don't realize like a bunch of the products that I've built in other places like LinkedIn or other type things, those are specifically aligned to give people back into the workforce. They're designed, the jobs matching algorithm is designed to have for my friends who are in the military, who were not getting good jobs, leaving and getting homeless and having drug issues or addiction issues, getting them into a job and being able to get to where they are. Find your mission. Let's go to inclusivity for a second. The best way to how do we get this and break people in? The best way to do this is team. It's team at the end of the day. You can't just break things. I think it's ineffective just to protest and say, hey, this is it. What you do is you find one person who finds a way in, and you find more people, and you push them in, and you get them in, and you bring the tribe in. And then everyone goes, people would not hire data scientists, especially out of academia. They were just like, these people are on this. So we started this thing, Jake Klampka really deserves credit for this, starting this thing called Data Science Insight Fellowship Foundation, and it fortunately failed, not because of the idea, but because of a casualty of COVID economics. But we took data science, people who are master's, PhD level, we took them for 6 weeks and trained them all up with the language, the logo. All we did is 6 weeks. We gave them had a project, like a capstone project like you would do here in the data science program. That's all we did, and everyone was like, these people are amazing. And we just hijacked the model and just shifted them in. And we brought all sorts of people of different color, background, diversity, all those things, and we pulled them in. And then people were like, these people went from like on the outside to pull them onto the inside. And so it's going to be a we thing. It's not going to be easy. I don't want to make it seem like this is just something easy and trivial thing that we're going to do. It's going to be hard. And it's going to take all of us to do it. You go to a conference, you go to an event afterwards when we're hanging out there, we're having cookies, whatever, and somebody's alone, isolated on the sideline, go up and talk to them. Leave no one behind. You see somebody at anywhere in an event, they're just like sort of not there, and they're just like looking out, like lost and confused, talk to them. You don't believe that this is a real thing? There was a kid that was sitting next to me at a conference. And he was just all alone. And I was like, hey, what do you do? And he's like, I'm doing this. I was like, what's the most exciting for you? He was telling me about this math problem and all this stuff. We started chatting. I was like, this kid is really something. This is really a smart kid. Started working on it. And then the kid I was like, oh my gosh, we got to stay in touch. This kid decided to intern for me. Started working on another project. Finally convinced him to go to college. He did that. He decided to drop out. We decided to work on some new ideas. And we're like, okay, maybe it's time to start a company. That person those ideas turned into Figma. That is Dylan Field. It started because he was that kid next to me, just sitting alone, and no one would sit next to him and no one would talk to him. And that's how we put on the back of a napkin, which I wish we kept, we wrote down the original plan for Figma. So when people tell me you can't do it, I'm like, BS, we can. So that was that. Remind me real quick. Yeah, thank you. Weaponization of data. This is very real. This is a real risk. So one of the things that I'm really concerned about, we built a database for DACA, people under DACA protections. We never expected that data to be turned around and weaponized. I think we are seeing the active weaponization of data right now, and there's a lot of talk of bringing all the federal data together. On one side, that would make a lot of services work a heck of a lot better. There's a reason that data should be separated. There's lots of talk of cybersecurity and how good this team is on cybersecurity. No one is that good on cybersecurity. You're up against a non-state actor. No one can be that good. So I am very concerned about it. I think the oversight function is broken right now at the federal level. And I think we need to have journalists, and we should be supporting our journalists and other peer groups who know how to ask the hard questions and find things. I think there's a version of this weaponization of data that also exists in the corporate world, and real questions about that. And there needs to be increased. We find about the classic hey, this loan calculator was racist, or these bail calculators, those issues. So we need to ask the hard questions. We need to have mechanisms to have that transparency. Some of the bills that are presented around the data transparency, other things are good starts. But I think we have to have a real conversation about what is weaponization in society fundamentally look like. And I would actually argue probably more strongly that already weaponization of data has been taking place for a while. It's just very subtle and it's not true weaponization, but it is a form of weaponization when it looks at and how it lands on particular populations. Where am I? Oh yeah. How do we stand up? What's our voice? If you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling sad, you're concerned, get together with other people. Do not do this alone. Get together, check in with how each other are doing. I have a regular call list of people I call and just hey, how you doing? You holding up? There's lots of questions because a lot of people have been hurt. We should also acknowledge that there's a lot of people who've been hurt for a long time. A lot of people in middle America, others, there's why people are so angry. There's a lot going on there. And so we have to acknowledge that. There's also a lot of people who are really confused. They get the wrong information. They get other things. And we can just sort of call them stupid. We can just kick them to the side, or we can engage them and embrace them and try to help them and help see why that they should be, how do we be a we? And we should learn from them. What is it behind how they got there? And we should challenge their thinking. I don't want to make this a right and left or a conservative and a liberal thing. I think because there are a lot of people who have been hurting on both sides and now feel empowered in certain ways. And we have to help say, what is the country we want to live in and hand our kids this next country? And that is going to be a much more extensive conversation that needs to take place. Protesting, all these things, that's a right. That's an absolute right. And we should stand up for what all constitutional rights are. The thing that I tell people more than anything else is good ideas happen when you get great people together and figure out what's going to happen. We've seen this many times. Take the civil rights era, take, you can go on and on and on of the examples that I mean, you've got them better than I do. But all of those aspects there's so much to learn from those populations and groups of what they did. I feel like I missed somebody's question. How do we prioritize? How do you prioritize at the White House? Oh my gosh, it's terrible. Because every morning, the joke is every morning 2 hand grenades roll into your office and you got to diffuse them before you get to the problem. And so the saying classically in government is you never let the urgent get in the way of the important. What's the important? And there's always crisis. And this is true in life. There's always crisis. What's the important? And how do you make sure you're focused on true north? Companies. Every day in the company, trust me, every day in a company, I would be open the inbox. I'm like, what went wrong? And there's tons of stuff, but I'm like, what are we trying to accomplish? What is our goal? And how do I get there? So I'm focused on that. Then I have a rubric of framework. At least the White House, our framework was fundamentally the prioritization matrix had to impact 50% of the population or a population that had no recourse, population that had no voice, the transgender population, for example. 2, 50% more than $1 trillion of U.S. spend. And then the third was, slipping my mind, but there was another one. And then it had to align with presidential priorities. And that's a rubric that we came up with that we said, okay, these are the big things. And then we talk extensively across the teams of like, could we get this done within this period of time? What does it take to move the needle? What are the different ways we could do this? And we're very busy soliciting advice. One of the things that I would encourage you all to think about is the model which we had is we have an amazing country. We have an amazing set of countries around the globe. And so we shouldn't be afraid to do what Megan Smith often calls scout and scale. We'd look across like different ideas and we'd be like, ooh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. What's common about those? Could it scale? Could we carry it across a broader reach? And then when we pulled those ideas together, we could come to a framework and be like, does it need legislation? Does it need something else? And this is the other one which I'll say about like, what can you do? This is a version that really credit goes to Tom Khalil and some others, is they have said, is if you had 5 minutes with the president, what would you ask them to do? You could ask them to give a speech. You could ask them to give a speech, ask for some legislation, make a phone call. You have 5 minutes. What do you want to do? Distill your thoughts down, and so you have that crisp articulation. And what is going to move the president to say, stop my next meeting, I need 5 minutes to do this? What is that thing that you want them to do? If you want to like, how do you get to that clarity of thought? This is where writing and what you see and what you're learning is the most thing. Because if you can't write it down in a succinct way that you can tell that story to move a president or any leader, then you can't make progress on the other things. So you come up with that story, you test it on other people, and then find a way to run into the highest paid person in the organization or the most powerful, get that 5 minutes and have that pitch for them, and then bring allies to amplify for you. Did I get them all?
Yes, you did. Thank you, DJ.